Welcome to Jane Jackson Careers, a podcast to inspire you to take your career to the next level. In this podcast, I chat with amazing professionals who are leaders in their field and find out what's made them a success. Many of them have successfully made changes in their careers. They may have changed industry, changed job function, made big city or country moves, or taken the huge leap into entrepreneurship. I also share practical and actionable career tips for those who want to explore what to do next in their career and aren't sure about what steps to take to get moving. Subscribe to this podcast for regular updates or visit me at janejacksoncoach.com.
This is Colin Gray from the podcasthost.com and you're listening to Jane Jackson Careers.
Welcome back to my Careers podcast, where I interview successful professionals who have made fascinating career changes. Today, I am delighted to welcome Sydney broadcaster and presenter, SteveO. SteveO is a radio broadcaster, presenter, music producer and consultant presenting the popular SteveO show on Sydney's FM airwaves and streaming worldwide. Now, although Steve is a relative latecomer to the world of radio, music has always been a strong influence and has been a consistent passion throughout his life. Born in London, Steve's early years were in the south of England before moving to Hong Kong as a teenager in his formative years, where he finished his education before embarking on a very eventful and varied career path. Steve served in the Royal Air Force in logistics and air movements in the UK and Germany. He was an international DJ, MC in Europe, and he's enjoyed a long career as a sales and marketing manager in the sportswear and leisurewear industries, and has also been an international tour director and is a property entrepreneur. He's had such an amazing career. Now he is fulfilling yet another long-held goal, presenting and producing radio shows, and is loving it. He balances this interesting career based in beautiful Sydney, where he embraces the ocean lifestyle and the occasional flat white. And to those who don't know, that's not a shark, it's a coffee. Now, I'm delighted to welcome SteveO to the show. And good morning, Steve.
Well, good morning, Jane, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's great to have you here. In fact, I'm doing something a little bit different today. Usually I do my interviews via Skype, and today you are sitting across from me at my dining table. How good is that?
Well, there's nothing like a one-to-one, and I do prefer my interviews when I do them on the SteveO show on a face-to-face, but sometimes you just have to use technology.
Exactly.
And do it long distance.
Yep, and now I can eyeball you while we're interviewing. So to kick us off, because the podcast is all about careers, I'd like to find out more about this incredible career path that you've had. And let's go back right to the beginning. When you were a little boy or when you were a young teenager, what career did you dream about?
Well, at a very, very early age, I knew instinctively that travel was going to be part of my life's journey. There was no doubt about it. In fact, as a little boy, when I first went to France, to Paris, when I saw the Sacré-Cœur from the Eiffel Tower at the age of, I think I was 10 years old, I thought, I like this. I want to see more. And that really literally was the beginning of my journey. And when I moved to Hong Kong in my teen years with my family, that really opened the door to all possibilities. And that was really my first aha moment. Definitely.
And so growing up in the UK and then traveling around Europe before going to Hong Kong, and that would have been a completely different culture, being in Asia. How did you find living in Hong Kong?
I took to it like a duck like to water. You know, it was just, I embraced it. I loved every minute. I went through to a tremendous school called King George V Grammar. That was tremendous. The social life was fantastic for all ages, whether you were a teenager, whether you were in your 20s, your 30s or whatever. And my family had a wonderful time. And it was the culture. It was the first time I lived in another country with culture. I found the Chinese people fascinating, friendly, laughing at themselves all the time. And I just, once again, I felt I fitted in and I knew. So at that time, it wasn't so much a career I had in mind, but I knew that travel was definitely going to be part of it, and I knew that I wanted to continue to live in different parts of the world.
And so from Hong Kong, how did your career start?
Well, I actually thought to myself, right at this young age, how can I begin travel at such a young age? And when in Hong Kong, I saw the different forces at work. I saw the Royal Air Force, I saw the Army. I had friends whose families were in the services, and I saw people in the Navy, and I realised that maybe the Royal Air Force was for me. So on our return to the UK, I applied to join the Royal Air Force, and they said, well, welcome, Steve. And in I went, and I served in the Royal Air Force confidently and happily for the next 6 years of my life.
Wow, 6 years. Amazing. And so where were you based?
I was based in the UK. I did a 3-year tour in Germany, which actually then really led me once again to live in a completely new country, a new location. And then I got to discover all the surrounding countries. I got to know Holland really well. Became my second home. Used to go to down to France as well, and it was just, and Belgium too. So it was just a fascinating base, and the life in the forces, which I'm sure it is still to this day, it's a life of camaraderie, where you are looking after your fellow comrade in whatever trade that you're actually in. And the other positive aspects was that if you sought a path in sports, then that was great. So I did quite well in swimming competitions and also athletics. So I had a lot of opportunity to once again travel through representing my bases.
Oh, wow. So you're a competitive swimmer and athlete as well.
And of course it had the subliminal force of boosting my confidence.
And so coming from 6 years in the Royal Air Force, where it would have been quite a structured lifestyle.
Very much so.
When you left, was there any anxiety about, I'm making a big change now, what am I going to do with my career?
No, quite the opposite, actually. It was like, thought, right, next stage of the SteveO adventure, really. When I was in the Royal Air Force, I got eventually involved in entertainments in the athlete clubs, which led me to start doing DJing. And once I began doing it, I realised I had a talent. I was immediately popular working discos and nightclubs and everything. And it was a semi-professional career. And I was also a lifeguard as well. So I hardly ever touched my income because I just lived on my semi-pro DJ income and my lifeguard income.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, but it was towards nearer the 6 years when I had once again I had the aha moment. It was I was doing a big gig to about 600 people, and I thought, this is what I want to do. I have to do this. So the RAF and I left on good terms, and I went and became a professional DJ. And for the next 2 years, I worked around the UK and Europe again, and this time basing myself in Switzerland, where I started to work and enjoy being an international DJ.
I think that sounds like so much fun, being able to have your career take you from one country to another country and also to do what you love with music. Now, in your career, you've told me that you spent time in the sportswear and leisurewear industries as a sales and marketing manager as well. So tell me, how did you transition into this, from doing the DJing and the lifeguarding and then going into marketing?
Well, of course, this is once again in hindsight, isn't it? When you're looking back, you sort of realise the path you took, but when you're looking ahead, you never really know what's ahead. But I realised that I had sometimes full circle moments, and even after 2 years of being a professional DJ, which I thoroughly enjoyed, I realised that perhaps it wasn't for me long term, but something that I could continue to make an income from and enjoy as a semi-professional profession. And that's when I decided that perhaps my future lay in sales, because that had always interested me as well. So I applied for jobs and I landed a job as an area sales manager in the south of England for a leading swimwear brand, and another 6-year cycle. I did that for 6 years. Thoroughly, once again, embraced the lifestyle of being an area sales manager. Knew my product well, developed really, really good relations with my customers. Was a natural salesman, and enjoyed it. And that path then took me to develop my own sportswear agency, where I was running agencies before then going into my own wholesale and retail operation, which I ran for several years.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. So it sounds like you've got multiple skills that you were drawing upon, and then from being a sales and marketing manager and being a 6-year specialist, obviously 6 years is good. You get stuck in, do a really good job, and then time for something different.
Yes, it seems the way it works. But I think that although all these what I've been talking about they're different, but actually they're not, because it's all about presenting yourself. It's all about presentation. There you are, and you're presenting. We're all presenting all the time, even socially. We're presenting our day-to-day lives. We're always presenting, and you want people to respond to you. So whatever I've done in my career, whether it's selling, we're all selling ourselves some way, one way or the other.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, communication in just about every role that any of us have is key to success, I reckon, because if you can't communicate, if you don't have really good interpersonal communication skills, written as well as oral communication skills as well, it's very hard to get your message across. It's hard to motivate people. It's hard to sell as such as well. So, and also with your rounded resonant voice, Steve, which sounds so good. I mean, it's good that you're on the radio because you've got such a beautiful voice. Now, there was something else that you did too that I want to hear all about. You've been an international tour director, obviously fulfilling your love for travel. What was going on there? Tell me about that role.
Well, once again, I'd come full circle, and I had some challenges in my life with health, and I had to take a while off, and I sort of thought about things again, and a very good friend of mine said, "Steve, when you get back to good health again, what are you going to do?" And I said, "I don't know." He said, "Well, have you ever considered being a tour director?" Because being a tour director, you can actually facilitate all the roles you've had into one. So doing presentation. So from my days as a live DJ, I could be entertaining 50 people, 100 people, 200 people, 300 people. But I had also begun to present, and also when I was a sales manager, I had to present ranges and make sales presentations. Being a tour director is just the same thing again. You are presenting to a group of tourists, and you are their tour director, so you're looking after anything from 30 to 50 people, taking them around a country. So I went around the likes of North America, Europe again, back to Europe again, but this time I actually returned to China, not Hong Kong this time, but actually took tours around China.
Wow, that sounds like a dream job, I think, for so many people. So tell me, what was the best experience as a tour director?
It's a very, it's an exhilarating, exciting experience, but it is very, very exhausting. So probably the most exciting thing was the end of the day when you could collapse. But what I liked about it was that when you are running tours, they're normally on average about a 15-day tour. So you are getting a snapshot of places you're traveling through. So you're actually having a smorgasbord taste of a place, but not actually staying there a long time. So when you went to like San Francisco, and I was doing a tour up on the West Coast up to Vancouver, you'd have 3 days in San Francisco, and then you go up for 2 days to 3 days in Seattle. And the wonderful added bonus was that as a tour director, I was actually being paid to see these wonderful places. And also then in my mind's eye, I was thinking, this is a place that I would definitely like to come back to. So it was just an absolutely fantastic way of seeing new places around the world.
Now, Steve, so you're traveling the world, obviously fulfilling your lifelong desires and what you enjoy the most, and now you are living in Sydney. Tell me the story. How did you get from all over the world to basing yourself in Sydney?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that, Jane. That's a very good question. It's going back. I had a 7-year battle with ill health in my 30s, and when in the time that I was recovering, I had quite a long talk to myself, and I said one of the things was, "What do you want to do now?" And I thought, I have never been to Australia. I've never been to Australia. I rubbed shoulders with people who've come and gone to Australia through my life, and always thought there was a place that I would probably connect with. So that was my next goal, and I started to take visits down to Australia through the next 10 years. I used to come down for 1 month or 2 months when time and finances allowed, and began to then develop friendships here, and then made the big step. Thought I'll go for it. I met my partner, which of course is always another good reason, and established myself here slowly at first, and then it developed into a real life.
Okay, and so Steve, what path did you take to get to where you are today?
Good question. Well, actually, Jane, it was the groundwork and passion that I put into music all throughout the years, never losing my interest, although leaving the live DJ world at a relatively early age. And people in entertainment here in Sydney had heard of my past work, and I was recommended to one of Sydney's independent radio stations, where I was offered my own show. And within 6 months, I was offered a second, and ever since then, have slowly established my show as one of the top independent radio shows in Sydney. And I suppose I would say that the most rewarding aspect of my current role is that I influence people, I influence the listeners, I make a difference to their day through my radio shows. I love engaging and sharing my passion in music, and I educate, I update, I inform, and I surprise, making my listeners really think about what I'm delivering. And the bonus for me, I guess you could say, is I also interview top names in music and entertainment. And for that 30 minutes or so of interview, I'm on the same level, one-to-one, most satisfying.
That sounds wonderful. You know what I really like about your show, because I listen in as well, is that you do those amazing covers.
Remixes,
you find those really well-known songs, and the next thing you do is you find a completely different artist who's covered that song as well, and it's amazing. Sometimes I just hear something and I think, wow, that's I didn't even know that person would sing. It's like that new one. What was it called? The one that I liked so much with Skyfall and who's?
It was they call that a mashup. It's a new term by these upcoming young producers and DJs in their 20s and 30s. Whereas the first time maybe they have only heard the song. So like Marvin Gaye's "I Heard It Through the Grapevine" was a big hit in 1969. So that's a long time ago. So for someone who was maybe born in the late 80s or 90s and is now in their 20s or their 30s now, they wouldn't have heard it first time around. So when they hear that song, they're hearing it for the first time. And because they have got new ears, then they think that will fit with that. So with a point in a case which you actually said was this particular song, it was Marvin Gaye, Heard It Through a Great, mixed with the orchestration of Skyfall from Adele.
Yeah,
and
beautiful.
It works. And it works. And really, I think things happen in so many careers and what we do by osmosis. And for me, I knew I wanted to make the SteveO show at some time in the future totally original. How could I make it original and different from the rest of the pack?
Also, you do some really interesting interviews with various artists.
Yes,
and there was one that I really liked when you were interviewing Susie Q.
Susie Quattro,
yeah.
Yes. There's Earth, Wind and Fire, who have teamed up with Chicago, and they are doing a duo tour together.
Are they?
Yes, they are.
That would be a dream tour.
So once again, and they're Facebooking like mad, and So, I share all these things with my listeners. Today, we are featuring the music of the artists who are about to go on tour from the soundtrack of your life, which is another catchphrase of mine. And when I'm doing the remix and re-edits and mashups, and here's such and such, like you've never heard before.
So, I like that, the soundtrack of your life. I like that very much.
But, I'll just add that nothing is original. Now, I heard a broadcaster several years ago say that. He only ever said it once. I listened to different stations around the world because I absorb what other people are doing. And sometimes I follow other presenters and I listen to them. And then every now and then I'll steal something. And that was from a broadcaster in North America. He said, and next is the soundtrack of your life. And he never said it again. But I thought, I like that. I'll do that. And so that's what we all do. We incorporate different things. It's not so much copying, but to do what you love until you find your own original style. So I believe in copy your heroes and those who inspire you, and then you transcend from imitating to emulating and breaking through into your own thing.
Yeah, that's true. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can just make everything better, which I think is a really good way of thinking of your career as well. Now, Steve, if people want to listen to you, how are they going to find you? In Sydney, they'll go to...
Well, in Sydney, what they can do, first of all, they can go, if they want to stream live, literally live, they can go to the SteveOshow.com and you can stream the show through the SteveOshow.com, and you've got the connection there. Secondly, you can also stream it from the actual radio station, northsideradio.com.au. I also have other links as well. There's the SteveO Show on Facebook, where you have not only a reflection of the mashups and the remixes, which I video in music videos, which so the listeners can actually see what they've heard. But also I have the top 100 remix, re-edits and mashups SteveO list. So you can connect on the SoundCloud link there, the SteveO Show on SoundCloud, and then you can pick whatever tracks you like to see. And I'm also on the SteveO Show on Vimeo.com, which is another link on my Facebook page, where you can then see all the music videos back in these tremendous new remixes and mashups.
Oh, that's fantastic. So if anyone wants to listen to SteveO, the dulcet tones of SteveO, go to his website, steveoshow.com. And even better is to go to facebook.com, SteveO Show, because he's always updating with all the latest shows that he's going to have and which artists he's going to be featuring. And I listen in because I really, really enjoy the music. So all that remains, Steve, really, is to say thank you so much for your time and your really interesting journey from the early days in the Royal Air Force to being an international DJ and a tour director and having your own leisure line and now becoming a radio broadcaster on the Sydney airwaves. We're very lucky to have had you on the show today, and thank you so much. There's just one more thing that I want to ask you, and that is, having had such a varied and interesting life, what would you say are the top 3 tips for success?
For success, create a passive income, invest in property, let it make money for you while you're asleep. And while you do that, while that is working for you, you can get on with other projects. Be original, be the best, and be proud of your work. Make it your passion, and the money will flow.
I love the word passion. If you have passion for what you do, then really it doesn't feel like work at all.
There's an old saying, follow money and money runs, follow success and money comes.
Oh, I like that one. I might use that for one
of
my photographic memes. Okay, leave us with one of your favourite sayings.
Everything that needs to be said has already been said. But since no one was listening, everything must be said again.
Steve, that means I've got to have you on the show again, just in case no one listened to the first one. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show. I really like that to finish off.
Most enjoyable, and it makes a change being on the other end of the Q&A.
Yeah, no, wonderful. So thank you so much.
Okay.
And
My
we'll
pleasure.
have you back on the show again.
Thank you, Jane.
Bye.
All the best. Bye.
You've been listening to Jane Jackson Careers. Sign up to receive regular career advice at janejacksoncoach.com.